Okay, well, welcome to the EcoG booth here at the Power to Drive in Munich. Thanks for joining us for this really exciting panel, The Rise of Powerblock and Dispenser Architecture, a game changer for scaling charging infrastructure. And I'm just going to introduce real quick who I have sitting next to me, because I'm not going to be talking about it. These guys will be. I just get to ask the questions. We have Jörg Heuer, CEO of EcoG. We have Raphael Görner, Executive VP Energy Solutions at Rittal. We have Wulf Schlachter. We're just going to say consultant at DXBe. And next to me is Friedel Meyer, Business Unit Director of Jabil. So you guys all worked together on this new Powerblock that you can see just over there around the corner. Now, Jörg, just so we all know what we're talking about, can you maybe explain in just one or two sentences what we're talking about when we're talking about Powerblock and dispenser architecture, and what are really the pros?
Yeah, maybe I take it first from the user perspective, and I think we later on will discuss a lot more from the industrial portion. But from the user perspective, if you are today using fast charging infrastructure and you are, parking your car, do something else, you're always concerned, hey, do I finished with charging? Do I need to repark the car to not block this expensive charging infrastructure? And what actually from the user perspective, the Powerblock and dispenser is about, you are no longer reparking basically the car, you are just reallocating the charging power to other lots. And that makes a big difference on one hand side for the user, but if you think from the infrastructure perspective, you are more and more efficiently using what you invest on that side, and that's the turning point in this industry.
Okay, so you didn't do this alone, coming up with this Powerblock. So I'm just going to go around, I was going to say around the room, but I'm just going to go around asking what you guys all did. Raphael, maybe we'll start with you. You guys make distribution cabinets, or the... what do we call it? Not the cabinets itself, but the modules for it. And you actually have the Powerblock on display here that I just mentioned around the corner, but it's on the inside that counts. Can you tell us what is on the inside, and maybe a little bit about what is different to a normal distribution cabinet?
Correct. So we have a heritage in enclosure production, and are producing 15,000 enclosures a day. And here we are showing together with EcoG how this would look in a modular concept with two different typical enclosure types that are payable, and also have integrated our knowledge, for example, on power distribution and on the cooling side. And with that together, I think we have a really good scalable solution that we have evolved over just a few weeks in the past weeks.
That quickly, yeah? Okay, well, Wulf Schlachter, you are work for DXBe. It's a global management consultant company, so I guess that already gives away what kind of role you played in this whole. I think you gave advice, consulted, but you also call yourself an EV evangelist, and you say that you meddle in a lot of charging projects, but generally in stealth mode. Now you're out here in the open. What was what really fascinated you about this project? Why did you want to come on board for this Powerblock dispenser architecture?
Yeah, so we have been working on this topic since 2017-18 when we did the first approaches together with, let's say, typical hardware, battery from BYD and charger hardware from ABB, very early times. And there what we have seen was on the efficiency of these, I would say, building was not the best way, so you have lots of efficiency loss due to length of cables and so on. So that was one topic what we learned over the years. So especially right now, where the pricing on the batteries as well as the chargers as well are more attractive to run into these kind of business models. So it's also for us a topic where we can go out in the market and support the team here on the going to market strategy with specific customers we have worldwide. So it could be on the land side, it could be on the marine side, it could also be on the, vertical takeoff and landing system side. So talking about flight taxis and so on. So these are the three cases where we have identified some customers as well.
Okay, we'll be looking at the future of this kind of system in a little bit, but I want to talk to Friedel as well. It's okay, I'll share my mic with him. So Jabil, you are on the manufacturing side of things. So you actually make the Powerblock, make the dispenser architecture. What are some of the pros for this kind of system from a manufacturing standpoint?
Yeah, so as you said, Jabil is one of the largest electronic manufacturing service providers in the world, and I think we have a great group sitting here and a great ecosystem that we've created between Rittal that we've been working with for a long time, and obviously EcoG on the Powerblock. I think the big benefit that customers can get from this is that the infrastructure is set up. Jabil can manufacture the Powerblock. We can integrate it for the specific configurations of the customers, and really have a good infrastructure in place here to collaborate with several different customers.
So this panel is called The Rise of the Powerblock and Dispenser Architecture, a game changer for scaling charging infrastructure. You're calling it a game changer, so you're setting the bar pretty high here. Jörg, this question is for you. What are some of the givens that actually, or what are some of the givens that need to be there in order for this kind of system to actually be implemented?
I would say there are two aspects. Aspect number one, why we call it a game changer, is if you look at the position of the total cost of ownership. We see as soon as you have more than 6 parking places to electrify, you are starting to reduce the TCO by 20 to 25%. And this is enormous in this market. So therefore we believe that we see the average size of a site today, this is now at a tipping point. That's number one. And then number two is, I mean, if you see who are sitting here together, and if we would go back 2 years, we would not sit here. Yeah, so this is a representative how we see that this market is professionalizing. We get for each element, production, system partner, how you set up sites, expertise in, and it's no longer, hey, here's just a charger. It's, hey, how you scale architectures, how you scale production, how you integrate the stuff. And this is also game-changing if you look at the stakeholders who push and scale this forward.
Okay, well, I'm just going to ask the same question I was going to ask Wulf. What are some of the requirements on site that actually need to be given in order to implement this kind of system with a Powerblock and the dispensers further away?
So historically, you were trying to get as much as grid as you have from your, let's say, utility of your best choice. And we all know, wherever you go, if it's in Germany or even in France, where you can get grid maybe within 3 to 4 weeks. So this is totally different to that what you have in Europe, where you generally have to wait maybe 9 to 12 months as an average. But there are some countries like, for example, in UK, where you have to wait 1.5 years or even longer to get the grid. So from that point of view, you can even use, I would say, a 22 kilowatt AC access to get rid of this. So you do not need the 100 and more kilowatt of grids availability. So this is, I would say, the biggest pain point of a CPO, a charge point operator, which want to be fast in the market. And so you, I would say, backloop this kind of, well, let's say, grid non-availability. And you can even run these sites in a kind of a off-grid mode, say it like this. So with minimum of energy and power you can use from the utility.
What do you mean by off-grid mode?
So off-grid means so you can combine this, for example, with the photovoltaics, get the, how we say, the energy into the battery mode, and then use the battery. And so far it's nearly an off-grid. 100% off-grid is not allowed in lots of European countries, except there are some which have just made some testings. So we are working on a project in Saudi Arabia where you can do so, talking about these kind of businesses, but these are has completely different dimensions, to be honest. So we are talking about gigawatt hours on the battery storage, which is provided there. And of course, you can imagine sun is there and wind you can use from the Red Sea. So these are the, how we say, differentiation point, what you do not have here in Europe or in Germany in this kind of, let's say, intensity.
Okay. Jörg wants to add something to that.
Yeah, maybe to add, so it really shows, I think, with what you say, all the flexibility you have to the system, because you have the modularity. I mean, that's also what you are on the grid side in the different business if it comes to battery, how you connect to the grid. But also if we think of scale, and we think now retailers starting to electrify 10% of their parking space, they combine it also with their morning, evening deliveries. Yeah, so it's just that you make more and more efficient use of this power electronic installation, because with the Powerblock and the switching matrix, we really can distribute it, the power where it's needed, and it's no longer blocked by a vehicle or specific to a particular site. So in the morning you can use it for the truck, over the day also for your customers, and you have more and more flexibility. And this is where we see the powerfulness of scaling of the system.
Okay, I just want to quickly turn to the audience and say you will be able to ask questions. So if you have some, you may think about them now, and I will ask him as we get towards the end of the panel. Raphael, the same question goes for you as well. What are some of the advantages from your point of view or from your manufacturing point of view for these power blocks compared to maybe smaller and more diverse distribution charge units?
Yeah, we already heard that sites look different, requirements look different, and we really have with this reference architecture a very flexible and modular opportunity to design it to the specific sites and really build it according to the requirements. And there we bring in our knowledge from the machine building and system integration side, where we really have learned how to industrialize production of such infrastructures, and this is what together with EcoG we are really have built into that reference architecture, that we can build it out of different building blocks and optimize it for the different sites in a very modular and flexible way. And I think that is what really will help us to roll it out in a very timely manner, to adopt it to the different requirements, and that is the game-changing part where I think we really see today a small step of the future, let's say.
Okay, smaller step of the future. Where are you going to be rolling this out? Are we talking Germany? Are we talking Europe? Are we talking the US? I mean, EcoG has offices in the US. Where we'll be able to see this Powerblock dispenser architecture in the coming, you said weeks, I think you said.
Yeah, so first of all, it's really amazing, and we commented that already today online. So the speed we have here, also with a partner with Rittal together, and with all the discussion we have with Jabil and others. So we definitely see that in 5 regions in Europe and also in the US starting. Due to, it's also a learning curve. So to say, it's not only to place something, but also to think how to integrate it. And therefore we decided that we do that with sample sites in Europe and North America. And this is still on the schedule for this year, by end of the year, to have that really in different scenarios, so everyone can experience it, what this new architecture means for the market. And we are expecting a scale by this technology next year.
By the technology next year, you said?
To scale this technology next year. So it's this year still about to have the sample cases of retailers, of depots along the highway, and also to look at the particular integrations, and by next year to further scale this technology.
So I have...
Maybe to chime in there. So for us in Jabil, we have over 100 sites in more than 30 countries, and with over $20 billion in spend, I think we can really bring the scalability to this. And obviously, Rittal has a very similar footprint. So if there's local content requirements, we can obviously fulfill that. And the scale is there, and we're looking forward to launching it next year.
So this is a question to the more manufacturing side of this panel. It goes to both of you. We're always talking standards, but standards are very different depending on where you go. So what about production? Will you be producing one of these for all markets? Will you do them market specific? I mean, will you produce in one site, or are you using more than one of these 100 factories in 30 countries? What's the manufacturing side going to look like?
So, like I said, we can localize it for the different customer demands. It also always depends, obviously, on the in-country requirements. In the US, there's Navy requirements that can be fulfilled that require 55% localization in the US. Obviously, in the European market, we want to produce locally. So I would say we would regionalize it. The production would be regionalized.
And let me add to the topic of standardization, because I think it's really about having a reference architecture documented, a digital twin that you then easily can adopt to the different market requirements. And that is actually where our sister company also comes into play. So Rittal hardware, ePlan software, and there we really look forward to provide this as an industry standard project, this reference architecture, so that it's easily adoptable and really have these electrifying standards, let's say, that we can roll out into the world.
And when you talk scaling, do you have any numbers? I mean, do you have a goal, a target that you would be willing to share with us?
Yeah, the target, and actually there are quite some evidence. So we expect in 2030 that this architecture is 80% of the market. Yeah, and we see that already in smaller established market that this proportion roughly holds. Yeah, and so coming back to one of the first questions, why we think this is a tipping point, if you look at the efficiency of total cost of ownership and the ratio we saw already with early markets with that one, that's it.
Okay, and when you say 80%, I mean, that's a lot. But is this kind of architecture the right way for all sites? I mean, are we talking along the highways? Are we talking parking structures? Are we talking garages? Or are there some where you say, no, the standalone chargers is still going to be the better business case?
That's a good one. So I'm not saying there's no standalone charger. The standalone charger will be still there for specific sites where you say, hey, you have a few things, satellites to electrify, which is good. But think of really if you start on a retail side, just to take an example, you electrify 10% of your parking area. With what technology are you doing that? Yeah? Are you building all these standalone chargers, or you say, hey, I can save 20 to 25% of the money? Then it's clear what you do. And the same, and that's maybe a little bit a different aspect. So we have here excellent system partners, manufacturing partners in this ecosystem. And what is nice is the Powerblock side is really something which is more and more standardizing, where you can scale production. On the other side, the dispensers become very lightweight components in there. So there's really a quite simpler technology, and it's easier to integrate inside. So if you think of environmental friendly, not only on noise, but also visually how you integrate something or make use of your space in depots, this opens up also a lot of the flexibility.
Okay, so this sounds really great. And obviously you all think it's really great. So my question is, if it's so great, why didn't you think about it earlier? Who would like to answer that question first? And please make sure that you keep your mic as close to your mouth as possible so we can hear better.
Yeah, at the end, when you start, we already said you need to electrify 6-8 parking lots. And now that also needs to scale the market. So you have to have a certain penetration in the market until also this happens with a certain likelihood. Yeah, and so this is a normal market development at a certain stage. I always bring the example, 20 years ago I worked for the infrastructure side on the telecommunication, And I say we are in the market position where we had these Motorola bones, right? So that's 3%, 4%. Yeah. Don't believe that if you do Motorola bones, that's what you do today with home banking and so on. So still a way to go, and the market is now significant sized that we can start with this scaling what we just discussed here.
So you have a different look maybe at the market because you always see what customers want to produce and maybe whether they're going to scale up the production or maybe scale down the production because it's not quite as much of a success as they hoped. Do you think the market is ready for this type of system?
Yeah, so what we see in the market is that obviously the adoption of EV vehicles is key for the charging systems to come with it. And we see that there's now a critical mass on EV cars on the street, that the infrastructure needs to be built on the charging side as well. And like Jörg said, over the next 5 years until 2030, there's going to be significant growth in the charging market where the Powerblock or the distributed system has its place.
What we see as well is that markets are developing a little bit different to that what we have seen here in Europe over the last, let's say, 10 years. So we see, especially in the fleet segment and company cars and so on, lots of development where, for example, you haven't seen here in Europe in the first phase. So commercial vehicles are growing, for example, in Asia much more than in Europe. And especially if you think about depot charging or something like that, then it fits a little bit better, this kind of solutions, than try to install 5 megawatts somewhere. So especially on the energy and the load management systems you have to implement as well. So this kind of solution makes more sense than, let's say, think about big and try to install 5 megawatts or 25 megawatts of grid in this case.
How much do you need in terms of grid connection? We talked about it, and you said you need very little. You can even do a semi-off-grid solution, but now you just threw a number in there. So I want to hear what you need for this. You don't need 5 megawatts. Can somebody give me a different figure? I mean, what do you need for a fleet of cars and trucks that you mentioned earlier? That company.
So we look at the different sites, let's say site reference designs, and of course it varies if you think of a truck along the highway to a retail. Yeah, so in the retail you can say this is per car something between 20 to 50 kilowatt. Now the charm is that we can switch this power across the cars and can schedule. Yeah, so we probably will start there with something like what you see on the fair with 640 kilowatt. In a central power block, but highly switchable over 20 to 30 different dispensers. Yeah? And so this is, if you think all the complexity we have today in cities, not being able in the multi-party homes to charge, this is really some of the blocking points of the electric mobility where this can already step in. Yeah?
So for every idea, there's generally a big but afterwards. So, great idea, but you said, where we talked about it, markets are developing differently. There's this wonderful thing called a grid connection that is hard to get in Europe. What are some of the other challenges that you guys are facing with getting this type of infrastructure out and scaled? I'm just going to go around the room, I was going to say.
So as we discussed for the scalability for us as a manufacturer, we obviously have the sites, we have the infrastructure in place, our teams are in place, so whenever the customers are ready, Jabil is definitely ready.
So I would say we here in Germany are well known for let's say it like this, funny fundings. Governmental activities, which comes up and goes and comes up and goes again. So this is also a topic where you could imagine have some issues or influence on, let's say, the daily business. especially from the customer side, because a truck operator has to decide, shall I buy the truck or should I wait until the next funding round comes up? So I think this is also a topic where you have to think about.
And as Jörg mentioned, so we are not yet in a very mature, very grown market. So we really see also this panel, the collaboration across the ecosystem participants was maybe in the past not so strong, but this is really now increasing and increasing. And we really see that with such reference architectures, with very good discussions and collaboration across such partnerships, we can really make this market grow faster and become much more mature, much faster.
And that's, I have to say, really the magic. Now we are sitting here before, but also if we think about this architecture, there will be also site installer like Unix we have here on the booth, having more responsibility in this architecture. So it's not like, you know, hey, we have now the new technology, just flip over. So that would be too, let's say, too simplistic to think of. It will be a way, and there will be different technology alongside, but we see now this is something which is going in quite not only technology-wise, but also in the ecosystem we are representing here.
Are there any questions from this side? Okay, they're generally not. I thought I'd give it a shot anyways. Oh, there is one. Oh.
I was wondering about you saying that the off-grid is not something that is currently possible. What's the blocking point?
It's a legal topic in most countries so far. You could imagine.
How can it be?
In worst case, it's always legal. It's not technology. So on that point, building these kind of ecosystems is easy on the one hand side. Inverter technology, everything is existing. So it's not a rocket industry. You simply have to pick all the pieces of the cake together, and this works so far. This is, I would say, not the case, because we have seen some gigawatt installations in some countries where you have enough sun within, I would say, weeks, something like that. And, well, it's a little bit different to that what you see here in Europe.
Any other questions? No. Is there something that you guys, if you could formulate a wish to European politicians, to the European markets, what would it be? Oh, he wants to start on the other side.
Well, we are right now here in Germany, right? So I would say quite some optimistic view on what we can achieve. So, I mean, we have been a lot now in political discussions, Berlin, on the EU side, North America, and they're quite different in how we see our, where to go. So here we tend to discuss a little bit back-looking, what are the threats and so on, but I think we have a lot of opportunities here, not only for the mobility to make it more sustainable, but to integrate more and more renewables also in the power grid. And I think we would have the wish to look a little bit brighter into the future.
Okay, Jörg wants some cheerleading from politicians. What about Rittal?
Yeah, and I really think the topic of data exchange, interoperability, that is really an important part where regulation today is also different from country to country. So, of course, there's some standardization ongoing, but is that really supported from a political framework? Not really. So it's very often technology driven. So there I think it would be quite important to also have that support from the political side to really open up there.
First of all, a question to the audience. Is there someone from now or from the Ministry of Transportation and Digital? No, I don't see anyone. So to be honest, I would say we need a little bit a kind of clearance in the whole ecosystem. So what we have seen over the last, let's say, 2-3 years or even 5 years in politics, we have seen lots of waves coming up and going down. So the wave started mostly in October, November, December with nice announcements from the ministry. well, we shut down something or we close something or we will not continue. So you have immediate reaction into the market. So first quarter was going down, especially on this year, announcing, well, the funding is stopped. So lots of hardware manufacturers here around, we have here in Hall C, were suffering. Then they, come back in quarter 2, 3. And in quarter 4, you start with the same topic again. So I'm guessing that maybe we are talking about e-fuels again, or we are talking about the comeback of hydrogen, of whatever kind of funny things at the end of the day, which are not have not this kind of efficiency what you would like to see. So I think this is, I would say, the waves we are running through, and this is, I would say, the negative effect what you do not have in other countries. Germany is very special. I talked to this morning with a guy from Austria. He had the same experiences. So it's a little bit about how you say the German-speaking region, where it's kind of negative behavioral from the governmental side.
Okay, I don't know how to sum that up, but I liked how when he said e-fuels, you guys all chuckled.
I think from our side, the localization from governments, for example, in the US, Jabil is a US company, we appreciate the Navy funding program to localize production in the US. So I think more localization and regionalization from governments is something that we are looking forward to.
So Navy National EV Infrastructure. Maybe something not everybody here knows. So, but yeah, very important. It's true. Last chance for you guys. Questions from the audience, because otherwise I'm going to let these guys go, because it is extremely warm, to say the least. Okay, no questions here. Thank you guys so much for talking to us about this. Good luck with it. I hope all your wishes come true. And yeah, we'll see each other at the opening in the next few weeks at all these sites.
Thank you very much.